For the first time since tearing his Achilles in week 1 of last year, Aaron Rodgers takes the football field on Monday night. And hopefully, emphasis on hopefully, he can make it through the first drive and lead the Jets team. Well, that has sky-high expectations. They are favored to win the AFC East for the first time in over 2 decades. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Green Dot Daily. I am your host, Charlie DiSturco, live from the Tommy John studio in New York City. And once again, we've got a football-only show on this fine Monday. In just a moment, you'll hear from Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen with their favorite props of the night. We'll also build out a same-game parlay with Billy Ward and go 4-down territory with Gilles Gallant. It's going to be a fun and very prop-filled Monday show, so buckle up and let's hit the ground running. First up on the docket, most bet props over at BetMGM. Christian McCaffrey has nursed a calf and Achilles injury in the preseason, but that has not stopped bettors from piling in on his first and anytime touchdown odds. Remember, CMC scored in 13 of 19 games last season. The public is also expecting a very slow game for Rodgers, fading the 40-year-old's passing prop in his return. As we now welcome in Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen to the show to talk more about Monday Night Football. Sean, I'm going to start with you. Aaron Rodgers, the return. He played just 4 snaps last season. Now he's back against a stout San Francisco defense. What do you project? How do you project, I guess, a 40-year-old off such a severe injury?
Yeah, well, typically I'm more confident in my projections after we've seen them play at least one game in a season. We haven't seen this guy play in almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of uncertainty here. But I kind of think the public's on the right side here with the under, just given how passing production has been at historic lows so far in week 1. We've seen teams average 187 passing yards a game heading into Monday Night Football, which is the lowest it's been in 25 years. So clearly, defenses are way ahead of offenses, and you're talking about a guy that didn't play at all last year, and he's 41 coming off an Achilles tear. So I'm kind of with the public here, leaning on the under.
Right. It really is so difficult to handicap, from a prop perspective, how much the Jets are going to pass, how much they're going to run. I even think it's the same thing on the other side, right? There's injury questions with CMC. Aiyuk had his holdout. How do you handicap that? Nick, I'm going to ask you too, just side total. It feels it's so hard to break through and find a prop. I guess, are you having the same way trying to break this game down?
Absolutely. It's been a tough one, and Sean knows I struggled with finding a prop for this one. So you'll hear mine. It's pretty ugly, but I agree with you. There's a lot of uncertainty. Look, we've seen 2 quarterbacks already this week play injured or coming off an injury, I should say. Joe Burrow and Kirk Cousins. Neither of them looked very good. It looked like their injuries were holding both of them back. So, to go along with what Sean was saying about Aaron Rodgers, if there's any lingering effect from his Achilles injury, especially as a 41-year-old, now it did, occur much earlier in the year last year than both Burrows and Cousins did, that could present a problem. And you mentioned, Juwan Jennings has been banged up. Brandon Aiyuk on the holdout could be a little bit limited. A lot of stuff here that's kind of going on that makes it tough to handicap this game. I
know it really feels like a maybe bet and wait, just enjoy the Monday Night Football action. But of course, we can't always do that. We have some props to tend to. I'm going to kick it to Sean Koerner first. Sean, your favorite prop of Monday Night Football?
Yeah, well, sorry about it, but it's a gross under. It's Brandon Aiyuk under 3.5 receptions at plus 120. I always have to be clear when it comes to these types of props. I'm not fading Aiyuk's talent. I consider him to be one of the top receivers in the league. He just got paid like one too, but it's all about the underlying factors in this matchup, which is why I like the under. I had just mentioned that passing production has just been down across the entire league so far in week 1, averaging just 187 passing yards a game. Rushing production has been way up with teams averaging 121 yards a game. So I think this sets up perfectly for the 49ers to stick with their run-heavy offense against a very good Jets pass defense. And it's unclear, if Christian McCaffrey is going to be able to handle a full workload, but I expect either, Jordan Mason, Deebo Samuel to get any rush attempts he can't handle, but I do expect the Niners to be a run-heavy team tonight. And Aiyuk himself is expected to be limited as he sat out, most of training camp due to his holdout. So he's going to be eased back into action in week 1. Probably going to, typically see more downfield targets. And this is a brutal matchup for him because he's going to be lined up across from either Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed most of the time. And this defense, the Jets defense, allowed the fewest completions, 20 plus yards downfield. So this sets up to be a much better matchup for McCaffrey, Deebo, George Kittle. So when it comes to kind of rooting for these unders, just think about it this way. You're just rooting for McCaffrey, Deebo, Kittle to get yards. And hopefully, if Aiyuk does get a catch, it's a longer one, things like that. So I'm projecting him to stay under this about 60% of the time. So love the fact that we're getting plus 120 odds here. And Charlie, as you know, before we came on, I was going to go with receiving yards, but I pivoted to under receptions because this is, more of a bet against, his playing time as opposed to talent. So he could easily catch 3 passes and go over 50 yards. Plus, on the other side, the Jets should be playing at a very slow pace, could kind of limit the overall volume of plays for the Niners. So I prefer going with his under receptions here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, all of this makes sense, and you can cope with it the right way, the way you said it. Root for Deebo, root for McCaffrey, root for Kittle, and Aiyuk. It feels like he won't be the guy that gets the low A dot passes. If anything, it'll be the deep balls that he gets targeted for. They'll look at Kittle, they'll look at Deebo, they'll look at McCaffrey underneath. This is music to my ears because I personally bet Deebo when it was 60.5 rushing and receiving yards. I personally think he's in for a big day, at least when it comes to targets and rushes. I just think that there's so much lining up for this where, Aiyuk off the holdout against Sauce Gardner. It's an incredibly tough matchup. So Brandon Aiyuk, plus money under on receptions from Sean Koerner. Nick Giffen, you bet overtime. You already bet that. That one came out in your weekly article where you break down overtime games. And you have a lean here as well for a prop. Tell me more.
Yeah, so this one's kind of rough because it's a kicker prop and it's week 1. So I'm going to take San Francisco 49ers kicker Jake Moody to have over 1.5 field goals made. The angle here is last year when San Francisco, and again, this offense is largely intact from last year. All the key players are still there. When this offense faced defenses that ranked in the top half of DVOA, they had multiple field goal attempts in 7 of the 9 games, 77.7% of their games. When they faced a bottom half defense, that was only 4 out of 14 games, which is under 30%. So it seems like, San Francisco is great at moving the ball. They had 61 touchdowns, or I should say Jake Moody had 61 extra point attempts last year. But when they move the ball, if they face a tough defense, they're more likely to stall out because that defense is good, leading to more field goal opportunities. And the other nice thing about San Francisco is they don't go for it on 4th down at a very high rate. They ranked 27th in terms of go for it rate on 4th down last year, 23rd the year before. So this is an offense that's willing to take their field goals when they present themselves. It's just they were so efficient last year scoring touchdowns, especially against bad teams, that I think this line isn't quite there on Jake Moody. So minus 115 is pretty good. I think you can play this to minus 130 or so. I don't love it. It's in lean territory, so I'm just going to do it for a half unit play here instead of a full unit.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take it, find the small value when you can. It is a tough matchup, and in general, the tough matchup to break down, and it makes sense here, right? Like the Jets defense, they're really good. There's no questioning that. And then you look at everything else, the 49ers with all the injuries, and you mentioned not going for it on 4th down, even if it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3, they might not want to go for it with McCaffrey, who already is nursing a calf and an Achilles injury. And we don't know the full health of him. We don't know the full health of, about half the people that's going to be playing in this game. Mike Williams is on a snap count too. So it's going to be a very interesting game to watch. But there you have it. We got Moody over 1.5 field goals, and then Sean with the under on Brandon Aiyuk receptions. Guys, enjoy the game. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. We'll see you on a Bet What Happens Live. I think that might be the better way to bet this game.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
I'm going to stick with that game as well, but dude, I'm going right to the 2 touchdown market, and I wanted to try to get in on guys before they explode. And the first guy that I thought of was Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels is that guy. He has that kind of speed. So I'm going to take him for 2 touchdowns at 18-1, and I'm going to pair him with Javonte Williams, the running back from the Denver Broncos against the Seattle Seahawks. It was at 18-1. It's still at 17-1. I'm still going to play it. So let's talk about Daniels first. So Daniels, with LSU, everybody knows about him winning the Heisman and what he did last year. And with LSU, he was a certified dual threat running quarterback, had 10 or more carries in all but 2 games in his Heisman winning year, had 2+ touchdowns in 4 games. So we know that he's got a bit of a nose for the end zone, and he's facing a Bucs team that gave up the 2nd most touchdowns to quarterbacks last year. So for me, I feel like if Daniels even scores 1 today, you're not going to see 18-1 odds for 2+ touchdowns. And if he scores 2, you'll never see it over 10-1 ever again. So I think right now this is great value for Jaden Daniels to get 2 touchdowns in his debut in the NFL.
And now we welcome in Gilles Gallant to, give him his flowers a little bit on the Jaden Daniels 18-1 2+ touchdowns. Congrats, Gilles. But of course,
thank you. I was even going to say, like, I took a page right out of your book, because when you were on the touchdown show, you were the 2 touchdown whisperer. I'm more of the anytime touchdown guy, so I was inspired by you.
Listen, you do not need to pat me on the back. My ego can't take more of a benefit right now, a boost. But we have to get to four down territory. We have to talk about Monday Night Football between the Jets, the Niners, and I'm expecting you to go multiple touchdown, not 2+ touchdown, but multiple touchdowns here on the 4 down territory. And you speak of me having that 2+ touchdown flair. Well, I'm going to target a guy on 1st down that I hit on 2 touchdown last season on the touchdown show. And that is Deebo Samuel to go over rushing and receiving yards. I believe you can alt-line it at 70, around plus money. I just think Deebo's in for a great day, Gilles. And listen, I understand the whole injury concern of him and what will be a physical game, but when playing 60% of the snaps, Deebo is normally over this number, over the 50% mark of him hitting 70+. He's had too many questions, or the San Francisco 49ers, that is, have too many questions around this cast right now entering this game. Brandon Aiyuk, he signed a deal, missed the entire preseason, most likely on a snap count. Trent Williams, also another guy held out of all preseason. How efficient is he going to be protecting the left side where McCaffrey likes to run, and the 49ers in general like to run to the left? How efficient is Williams going to be? Oh, and then McCaffrey, calf, Achilles injury. How healthy is he? We don't know. I expect them. Shanahan, he's a god at getting guys open and using a lot of motion around the snap. Well, Deebo Samuel's one of those guys that he can always find a way to get open. We're going to see multiple carries. At least that's what I think. So I think 1st down, we're going to play it safe, right around plus money. Deebo Samuel, 70+ rushing and receiving yards. Where are you headed on 2nd down?
Well, before I go 2nd down, I just wanted to mention, I think you're on the right track with Deebo, because we talked about this just before we came on air. He's moved from 60 to 70 now just in this market. And generally, Christian McCaffrey, especially in the latter part of the year when they were on the stretch run going into the Super Bowl, he was, for a running back, playing over 80% of snaps. That is not sustainable. I think Christian McCaffrey's probably going to have to take a little bit of a step back tonight. And as a result, that could really benefit Deebo, which is why I think you're seeing that yardage climb. And I think it's going to climb all the way until kickoff. So, Charlie, with the 2nd down, I'm going to stay with the Niners offense as well. But I'm going to take the one guy that I feel like I could trust to score a touchdown, especially where the odds actually line up, and that's George Kittle. Because this Jets pass defense, just stingy AF, man. Wide receivers, they only allowed 5 touchdowns last year to wide receivers. That was 1st in the NFL. And this defense, they love to thrive and go up with man coverage. Kittle graded out as one of the best tight ends versus that type of defense when it comes to yards per route run, target share, all that good stuff. And the Jets, they did rank pretty well against tight ends last year, especially in DVOA, but they did give up 8 touchdowns to tight ends last year. That was 27th in the NFL. And we talk about this as well with primetime games and touchdown odds. If you don't like it around plus 200, you can likely wait till closer to kickoff, probably get better odds. But plus 200 is my cutoff. So George Kittle is who I like for 2nd down.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great look. I think Deebo, maybe he can get a rushing touchdown and get in. But other than that, I don't know if Aiyuk is going to be able to beat down Sauce Gardner. Exactly. I don't think Deebo, even on the outside, the Jets secondary is elite, as you mentioned. And McCaffrey, there's a lot of questions with him. And I mentioned Williams. There's just so many question marks. The one guy, like you said, that you know for a fact that's probably going to be there every single down, especially because he is an elite blocking tight end also, is George Kittle. So a touchdown at 2-1 here, definitely a great look. And then you're putting me in a nice situation here on third down. We're in third and long right now because you said 2-1. I got to go even higher than that. So how about we hit the 3-1 territory? Plus 320, Breece Hall, 50-plus receiving yards. You'll hear a lot from me about how I like Breece Hall in this matchup. And listen, last year, Breece Hall had nearly 100 targets. And you look at them, and yes, I understand it was Zach Wilson, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, all crap behind under center, and the Jets were trailing a lot. But Aaron Rodgers, when he played with Aaron Jones, turned Jones into an elite pass-catching back. Now he has arguably the best pass-catching back in all of football, maybe second behind McCaffrey. And San Francisco, they allowed, close to 37 to 40 yards per game to running backs out of the in pass-catching situations. So you just buy the hype of Breece Hall, a guy who is so heavily used in this offense against a team that likes to play back and give the middle of the field up. I think Breece Hall could take advantage a lot here. And you look, he's been over this number in 5 of his last 12 games to end the regular season, which is about 42%. So getting plus 320 here, 50-plus receiving yards on dump-offs, likely a negative game where they're going to have to be passing a lot. I like Breece Hall in this matchup. I don't know about you.
I definitely do. I just didn't love his touchdown odds around plus 125. But as far as usage goes, whether they're trailing ahead, he is going to be featured very much in this offense. And you kind of alluded to, the wide receiver room is kind of up in the air right now on the Jets side. Really, outside of Garrett Wilson, it's really hard to kind of determine who's wide receiver 2. But I think I have a hunch of who I think is going to be wide receiver 2 in this offense tonight. And this is who we're going to do for fourth down. We're going to go with Allen Lazard for an anytime touchdown at plus 700. Now, I tracked it on the Action app for a half unit, but we're going to put it as part of the 4 downs here. And for anybody who's like, oh, Lazard sucks, what are you doing? Like, look, I'm very aware he had 1 touchdown last year, but you almost have to really kind of throw out all of the Jets passing data from last season. Zach Wilson is not throwing the ball. I bet Allen Lazard in week 1 last year because of Aaron Rodgers playing, and that was over in 4 plays. And the reason being is because in his final 2 years with Green Bay, he was kind of the go-to wide receiver for them, especially with Devontae Adams left. He had 14 touchdowns in his final 2 years with the Packers. And don't want to get too caught up in coach speak and training camp speak, but people are saying Allen Lazard had a great camp. He looks back to form. I think there's going to be a ton of attention on Garrett Wilson and stopping him, and Breece Hall as well. So I expect Allen Lazard to get a few red zone looks as a result at plus 700. If you're looking for a long shot touchdown bet in this game, I think you can't go wrong with Allen Lazard at plus 700.
It's a really interesting look. And I think in general, this market, this game, it's so tough to bet into. So taking a stab on a guy who has such an elite rapport with Aaron Rodgers, it makes sense. Plus, Mike Williams is going to be on a snap count. That much is already known.
Exactly.
Garrett Wilson is the focal point of the Jets offense, and the San Francisco defense knows that. So they're going to focus on shutting him away. And then you mentioned it. Breece Hall, right around plus 120. It's kind of hard to get behind that number given the San Francisco defense. So taking a stab with Lazard at 7-1 is definitely a great way to round us out here on 4 down territory. I think this Hail Mary pass at 7-1 is going to be a cash. And listen, you want to recap our 4 down territory on first down. I played it a little bit safe. Deebo Samuel, 70-plus rush and receiving. We've already seen that number just keep on trickling up. George Kittle on second down, anytime touchdown at 2-1 from Gilles Gallant, who's on fire in the touchdown market right now. And then I had to throw a little Breece Hall juice in there, 320 to get 50-plus receiving yards, a number he's done in 42% of his last 12 games. And then to round us out, Allen Lazard to take us home. Gilles, I feel great about this one. I don't know about you.
I love it, man. I'm probably going to be doing a round robin parlay on this one because I feel like we're getting at least 2.
I know. We get at least 2 to the door, all of them plus money. That means we're going to profit. And listen, if you want some fun, sprinkle a little bit, enjoy the game. It's going to be a great one. So, Gilles Gallant, thanks so much, and we'll see you here again on Thursday for Thursday Night Football. Let's keep the good times rolling on the gridiron, and here are 3 storylines entering this Monday Night Football bout. The talk of the town on Aaron Rodgers' season debut, basically his Jets debut after playing just 4 snaps before suffering a season-ending injury on the opening drive. He faces a stout SF defense that is fresh off a stinging Super Bowl loss. And we've seen the public support pour in on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets as we welcome in Billy Ward to the show to help build a same-game parlay as we do every single primetime game. Billy, we came oh so close to that Friday night long shot. We needed a ladder on Watson and, it was the wrong receiver in Green Bay. But as you do every time, Monday, Thursday, and then the occasional Friday night football, you break down a same-game parlay on Action Network. You said, here are 3 legs at north of 4-1 that I like, and then sprinkle a little bit on the long shot. Those 3 legs did hit. So you know what? There's still some flowers to be given. But, Billy, we're here. It's Monday Night Football. We got the Jets. We got the Niners. We've got a parlay to build, and I'm helping out this time. So maybe that will change up the juju. Where are you headed for your first pick?
Yeah, hoping to do a similar thing this time around, but with 2 legs that get you to 4-1 odds and are fairly reasonable, I think. The first one, you queued it up. The public's all over the Jets. We're taking the Niners -4. Opened at 4.5, so I like the value a little bit. It's really hard to feel good about Aaron Rodgers, 40-year-old quarterback, hasn't played in 2 years. And more importantly, the way this correlates with our next pick, it gets a lot longer odds than I believe they should be. So it's really about how this comes together in the parlay. I would not be taking either spread on its own accord, but when we can put it together this way, I like it.
Billy, the audacity of you coming onto the show, knowing I like the Jets. I didn't actually bet the side, but as a Jets fan, the first leg I have to be on in this parlay with is Niners against the spread. I understand the reason. I am worried about Rodgers returning as a 40-year-old off a serious injury, so I get it. I'll let this one slide for now as long as you don't double down on hating on the Jets. Where are you headed for the second leg?
Yeah, I mean, well, hear me out. You're going to like this one a little bit better. Christian McCaffrey, I believe it's 71.5 rushing yards is the best line in the market now. If you do Christian McCaffrey's rushing under in the Jets spread, it brings you to about plus 170. If you do Christian McCaffrey's under in the 49ers spread, it gets you north of 4-1. I understand what books are thinking, right? A good game from McCaffrey should correlate with the 49ers winning. But what happens if the 49ers score early through the passing attack? They have, a star running back who was injured a little bit in preseason. They like to manage his workload when they can. The logic here is if we get a couple early passing touchdowns or even passing production and a McCaffrey short touchdown, the 49ers are going to really ease up on his workload, try to slow this game down and look to the backup running backs. I think those two should be closer together, the parlays with the Jets spread versus the 49ers spread. So we can get more than 4-1 on McCaffrey's rushing under with the spread. I really like that.
Yeah, I like this look. And I also think, given the fact, and you mentioned it, he was hurt in the preseason. He says he's good to go. I mean, Trent Williams signed, did not even practice all preseason. How effective is he going to be in his first game of live action back? I personally like Deebo Samuel to have a great day. He could even eat into McCaffrey's rushing yards or rushing attempts, that is. So I like this one. I like this one to build it out. So it's nice to get the Jets rush defense going maybe too. He only gets 15 carries and not hit that 70-yard mark. But I'm going to round us out the third leg of this parlay. I want to take this one to a next level. And I'm going to go to the Jets, as you probably could have guessed. And, boosting this parlay to close to 10-1 is by backing Breece Hall here over rushing and receiving yards. I'm fine with this one up to 100. I think given you look at Breece Hall's past history, he averaged about 4.5 yards per carry last season with the Jets having Zach Wilson and Tweedledee and Tweedledum in the under center for the Jets. Now he gets Aaron Rodgers, who seemingly is an upgrade. He got nearly 100 targets in the passing game. We saw how good Aaron Jones has been with Rodgers back in Green Bay. I think Hall is the perfect complement with that. I think he's going to have an incredibly high usage rate here. I think the Jets are going to lean on him early and often. And the 49ers defense, as good as they are, they do allow a lot of receptions to the running backs, a lot of dump offs in the middle of the field. They take away the wide receiver ones, the twos, and with Mike Williams' injury and Garrett Wilson getting all the attention, I like Breece Hall to have a great day. Billy, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, love that pick. Couple reasons. First of all, we wanted something positive on the Jets side. We're just gonna get way better odds when you're taking one team spread and then have some positive picks on the other side. I had Breece Hall's rushing yards over 80 plus, the alt rushing yards in my article. Similar logic here. It makes total sense. I actually like your pick a little bit better than what I originally went with, because if they do get down big and they're dumping off to him rather than handing him the ball, we're covered. Of course, in the article, it got us to about 20-1. This one's a little bit closer to 10-1. So play around with that. If you're building something similar, assess your risk tolerance. How big do you want to swing? If you really want to go for the moon, you can go even higher on some of those alt lines. Or this one gives you a little bit better shot at winning.
Yeah, this one, a little bit dumbed down version, but you can read Billy's 3 legs over at Action Network. He gave you them all here. But if you want to read more about the analysis, you can head over to actionnetwork.com. Billy breaks down every primetime games with an SGP. So, Billy, thanks so much for hopping on. We'll see you Thursday, and fingers crossed we get to the finish line. Well, I guess not really fingers crossed because I'm rooting for the Jets, but thanks, Billy. Last season at the Favorites podcast, they ran a free $100,000 NFL Pick'em contest, and people went nuts for it. They just announced they're bringing it back. You make 5 NFL picks a week. It's totally free to sign up. There's cash prizes for the top 10 finishers, a $40,000 first place prize, a $100,000 prize pool, and thousands up for grab each week. Go to favorites.actionnetwork.com. Do not miss out. And now time for a new segment here over on Green Dot Daily. You see this wheel in front of me. Well, it's time for me to go toe-to-toe with somebody. We got to have a competition going. So instead of an expert, why not this measly wheel? Here's how it's going to work here on Green Dot Daily. Every primetime game, I'm going to give out my favorite pick. I'm going to spin the wheel. The wheel is going to give out its favorite primetime pick. Charlie versus the wheel. We're going to see who wins. A reminder, we don't really have a punishment right now. We're figuring that out. So if you want to give us ideas, comment on the YouTube channel, comment in our Discord, tweet me, either or. We're going to come up with some punishments for me if I lose to this wheel. I don't really see this being an issue. I mean, it's a freaking wheel, and I got a brain and everything like that. So my favorite play of this Monday Night Football slate is Deebo Samuel over rushing and receiving yards. You heard me on 4 Down Territory with Gilles talk about it. I just think with Aiyuk, with Williams, with McCaffrey, all coming back either from injury or holding out, the one guy that we know is a constant 100% entering this game is Deebo Samuel. Jordan Mason's going to back up McCaffrey. I don't think he's going to get many carries. I think that Deebo Samuel is going to take some of those load off McCaffrey. So I like Deebo to do some damage. We're going to see how the wheel thinks himself. George Kittle over 45.5 receiving yards. A little bit of a head-to-head kind of. I mean, I guess the San Francisco 49ers offense can put up big numbers and both of us could win, but it might be looking like George Kittle versus Deebo Samuel for all of the prize money here in Week 1 best bet. So that's the wheel's best bet. George Kittle over 45.5 receiving yards. Mine, Deebo Samuel over rushing and receiving. We'll be back here on Tuesday to discuss who wins this battle between me and the wheel. And just a reminder that any pick we give out here on the show, you can easily reference by following us in the award-winning Action Network app at Green Dot Daily. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to be all for Green Dot Daily on this Monday. Enjoy the game. Jets, 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 Jets. And we'll be back here tomorrow at 3 Eastern to talk more about football and baseball and everything else across the sports world. Have a great day.